Yo, 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 everybody. Professor Generikb here with another episode of Redstone Academy. Have you missed me? I missed you guys. Sorry it's been a while. To be honest, there's a bug in 1.3.2 that was preventing me from showing you some stuff, but I figured out a solution. I'll show you that here in a minute. Today we're going to talk about pulse lengtheners, which is another type of monostable circuit, and we're going to talk about NOR latches. And the reason I'm talking about both of those is because you can use them in very similar ways for different things and yada yada. You'll see what I mean. So here's our standard. You got the button, goes up a little bit, down a little bit, right? Now, what if you wanted the piston to extend for a longer period of time? Well, the first instinct you may have is, well, I'll just put a bunch of repeaters on it. But the problem with this one is, watch what happens. It stays up and down the same amount of time. The only thing it's doing is it's just delaying when the signal gets to it. So you can actually see it. See, there's the actual little button signal going to it. So that ain't doing it. Sometimes this is useful, but not really. So then we got these things called pulse lengtheners. And like I said, they're a monostable circuit. And what a monostable circuit is, regardless of however long or however short the signal is going into the circuit, the output is always the same. And so it's monostable, right? So here's an example of a pulse lengthener. I'm going to hit it really quick. See how that goes up much further, right? And here's essentially how it works. You remember when we talked about pulse limiters, how there was, or pulse shorteners, how there was, once you hit the signal, it would, like almost after just a couple ticks, one tick, the second signal with the repeaters would cut it off. That's sort of what's going on here. And for example, let me show you. So if we do a quick one here. How quick can I build it? And great. So this was our thing before. If I hit it like so. Right? Remember how it went really quick? So the signal goes in, which turns this guy on, but then just 2 ticks later, it will turn it back off. So that's sort of what's going on here. You hit the button, and the first thing that's going to happen is this will be powered. It goes up here, all the way through, and turns on the piston, right? We'll talk about this thing in a minute. Now, at the same time, this block is getting powered, which is sending a delayed signal in here, which will eventually power the block and then power the piston. So it's almost doing, you hit the button, this is going, right? And then right about the time when this is about to depower because of this signal up on top, that's when this delayed signal comes in and goes, no, I got you, brother. Tag me in, bunk, and then it stays on, right? Does that make sense? So it goes up and then in, right? Now here's another really nice one. This is it does the exact same thing, except it's a lot more compact. And what happens is you push the button, or you can use any signal you want that will power this block. So you can put a repeater into it. When you push it, right? Same thing. What that's doing is that is powering this block, which is also not only powering the repeater, but it is also powering this redstone. The redstone will instantly go and power this this piston, so you don't get that crazy delay like you had over there, right? So then this will power, the repeater will power the next block, and then because that block is now energized, the redstone next to it will be powered, and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like, as long as this signal is going through all these repeaters and blocks, it's just constantly bouncing back and forth and powering the redstone line, and that's what's keeping it up, right? like so. Now here's the funky thing in 132. This is what was really baking my noodle. Watch this guy. Now theoretically this should work. And this is exactly how it used to work prior to 132. Maybe this got messed up in 1.3. I don't know. But watch this. What? And the weird thing about it is if you build this in a different direction, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the amount of times the piston extends and retracts changes. The weirdest thing, the only thing that I can figure is that the timing of pistons has changed ever so slightly, and you need this extra repeater just to kind of smooth everything out a little bit. It's the only thing I can figure, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, it works great. So if you're having pulse lengthener problems, just add a repeater at the output. Here's a design that I did. It's a modified version of this guy. And it is just putting 2 repeaters in between each block. Works great. But you can see in the same amount of space, I'm able to fit 4 repeaters instead of 3. So just that little bit, right? Goes like that. And just to show you the difference between the two, we'll put a little guy there. Let's see, do one of these guys. Wonk, 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 wonk. That should work. Right? They go up. Right? So just a little bit longer. A little bit of an improvement. So, useful, very nice stuff. This is called the pulse lengthener. Now we're going to talk about RS NOR latches. God, excuse me, I got a little bit of a morning voice. Hey, how's everybody doing? RS NOR latches are also sometimes called a memory cell. Think of it like a... You remember how a T flip-flop had... You push one button and it would turn something on and off? Well, this is a switch, but it has an on button and an off button, right? So if I hit this guy, it goes on, stays on. Now, remember with the T flip-flop, I would just hit that one more time. But you notice it does nothing. The button, it does nothing. I have to hit the second one, and then it'll go back down. So RS is, the R stands for reset, and the S stands for set. So this is the set. Here's the reset. Okay, here's how this works. This is the most basic RS NOR latch right here. You've got kind of like a loop. And what this basically is doing is you can see this, this block is off and this block is on. And the output of this block that's on, because it's inverted with the torch is off, it just feeds back in and it's off. So off and off, right? So this is stays in a state of off. When I hit this button, right, what happens is the torch goes off because it inverts the signal of the block, which then turns this signal off and turns this block off, which then turns the torch on because it's inverting, powers whatever your output is, but it's also feeding the power back into the initial block, so it stays on. So it stays in this state just like that. Hitting this doesn't do anything because the block is already powered by the output. See? Very handy. Now this is the most basic version. There's another version here. Technically you don't need this repeater. You can put that right there. I don't know. I just like putting a repeater. Call me crazy. But this is the exact same thing. You can see. Right? Same setup. It's just a little more condensed with some repeaters. Turn it on. Turn it off. Perfect. Here is a one-wide version of it. This is one of my favorite ones that I use if I want to do add delay resets to it, which we'll talk about in a second. And again, this is the same thing. If you look at it, it looks weird, right? It looks all complicated. But we know how dust and torches and repeaters work, so here's how this goes. This is currently in the off position, right? This block feeds the power in, which powers this block, which then powers this block because of the dust on top, which then turns this torch off. And then the output, we're kind of treat both of these blocks as kind of like this block right there. So the output is off as well, right? As soon as we power this guy, that will power this block, turns it off, turns that off, which then turns this torch on and that torch on. This torch is powering the dust on top, which keeps this block powered. So it's in a latch. So like a latch is, if you think of like an actual latch in real life, it closes something and then it stays closed, right? And that's how this is. Dun, dun, dun. So NOR Latches, that's how this works. Very useful for things like anything where you want to keep a bit of memory. So like track selectors for your minecart train stations, right? You may sit there and you go, all right, I want to hit that, and I'm going, to my jungle or to my mine or whatever. And you want to make sure it does that. And maybe this goes to the reset of all of your other track selections. Plenty of tutorials on stuff like that on YouTube. Here's my favorite use for it, is to turn an NOR latch into a pulse lengthener. And here's how this works. Here's the same old NOR latch, right? But what I've done is, off of the input, I've made a little loop of repeaters that goes into the reset, right? Because you remember, here's the reset. Yep. Hit the day. So all I've done is when you hit it, you see how it goes around? And that's it. So it's basically, I'm turning it on, and then after a few moments, this little redstone repeater loop goes and turns it off for me. So it makes a very nifty, very easy, fairly compact pulse lengthener. And here is another crazy example of one. This one I actually got from Minecraft Addict, who doesn't do videos anymore, but this one was so interesting and so different that I wanted to give him a shout out. Let me show you how long this thing works. It's crazy. Look at that, huh? Man. So here's how this works. This one's a little more complicated, but I'll do my best to kind of run it through. Now, forget about this loop for just a second. What this is this is an NOR latch, right? You can kind of see, like, here's your input, the torch coming into the output block, right? And then here's a torch that feeds back into it. So forget all this stuff. This is pretty much just an NOR latch. But what happens is, I hit the button, it turns this torch off, but at the same time, it turns this signal on, right? And it starts the delayed reset. But this goes up. It will turn on this torch, which will turn on the signal. Then it'll start this delay, and what happens is the reset becomes pretty much twice as long as whatever you see right here. So it's really crazy how it works. And the reason it works is the first reset, not only does it turn the torch back off, but it's this little magic piece of dust right here. It goes through, the repeater powers that block, which then powers this dust. So watch this, it's crazy. So you hit it, right? Do you see that? Now that's on until it's off. So it's like, this one is carrying the signal for the first half, and then this repeater is carrying it for the second half. Really, really nutty. Right? Very smart. Yeah, and then these just kind of lengthen the signal just a little bit more. So very cool. You could, of course, extend these out as far as you want. So for instance, like let's say you needed even more delay. You could just run, let's do something like that. Running through. Throw some things like this. That should work. You know, just kind of zigzag them together. Right? I get them all? Almost? Cool. So now, you know, you get a bunch of them. And they go up. Do. Right? Same thing with this one. You can just add a bunch more repeaters to that side and make it super long. Okay, finally some practical uses for these things. One, which is one of my favorites. Am I in... Oops. Oh, hello. Make sure I'm in easy mode. And I'm going to grab let's spawn a creeper. Good old creeper. If you have a system where you need to do a little crushing of a mob, you can just, here's my NOR Latch with the repeaters for the delayed reset on it going into the piston, right? So it's as simple as, right? And then to get just the right little sweet spot, God, look at those slimes. To get the right little sweet spot, you would just have to modify the number of repeaters. Great, that works. Okay, let me go back to peaceful. So yeah. And then of course, one of the most popular ones is using this for a door. Now, in the last episode when we talked about T flip-flops, you know, you could push on something and then like push a button, it would open, go through, push another button, it would close. That was really cool. If you didn't want to have to click on anything twice, you could just go right over. See, gives you just enough time. And here it is. It's just here's my NOR Latch. The output of it is just right next to the pistons. It's very easy. Remember, keep in mind, this dust will also power that block. So it's getting this piston and that piston. Here's your delayed reset. And the cool thing about this one too is, you know, you could sit there and put your pressure plate, you know, further out maybe. Who knows? Do something like that. You know, that way so you got plenty of time. Very cool stuff, right? Okay, hope you enjoyed. Again, sorry it took so long. It was just these darn repeaters and pulse lengtheners that were really getting me. Next episode, we are going to talk about bud switches. I know you guys have been wanting it. When you come to my bud switch tutorial video, keep in mind that that thing is going to be so not logical whatsoever because it really relies on bugs within and glitches within Minecraft. Okay? All right, students. Until next time, Professor Generikb saying, take care, brush your hair. I'll see you when I see ya. Peace.